One of the most common ways of dividing the world is into those who believe and those who don't, into the religious and the atheists. And for the last decade or so, it's been quite clear what being an atheist means. There have been some very vocal atheists who've pointed out not just that religion is wrong, but that it's ridiculous. These people, many of whom have lived in North Oxford, have argued They've argued that believing in God is akin to believing in fairies, and essentially that the whole thing is a childish game. Now, I think it's too easy. I think it's too easy to dismiss the whole of religion that way, and it's as easy as shooting fish in a barrel. And what I'd like to inaugurate today is a new way of being an atheist. If you like, a new version of atheism we could call Atheism 2.0. Now, what is Atheism 2.0? Well, it starts from a very basic premise. Of course there's no God. Of course there are no deities or supernatural spirits or angels, etc. Now let's move on. That's not the end of the story. That's the very, very beginning. I'm interested in a kind of constituency that thinks something along these lines, that thinks, I can't believe in any of this stuff. I can't believe in the doctrines. I don't think these doctrines are right, but very important, but I love Christmas carols. I really like the art of Mantegna. I really like looking at old churches. I really like turning the pages of the Old Testament. Whatever it may be, you know the kind of thing I'm talking about. People who are attracted to the ritualistic side, the moralistic, communal side of religion, but can't bear the doctrine. Now, until now, these people have faced rather an unpleasant choice. It's almost as though either you accept the doctrine, and then you can have all the nice stuff, or you reject the doctrine and you're living in a sort of spiritual wasteland under the guidance of CNN and Walmart. So that's a sort of tough choice. I don't think we have to make that choice. I think there is an alternative. I think there are ways, and I'm being both very respectful and completely impious, of stealing from religions. If you don't believe in a religion, there's nothing wrong with picking and mixing, with taking out the best sides of religion. And for me, Atheism 2.0 is about, in both, as I say, a respectful and an impious way, going through religions and saying, what here could we use? The secular world is full of holes. We have secularized badly, I would argue. And a thorough study of religion can give us all sorts of insights into areas of life that are not going too well. And I'd like to run through a few of these today. I'd like to kick off by looking at education. Now, education is a field that the secular world really believes in. You know, when we think about how we're going to make the world a better place, we think education. That's where we put a lot of money. Education is going to give us not only commercial skills, industrial skills, it's also going to make us better people. You know, the kind of thing at commencement addresses and graduation ceremonies, those lyrical claims that education, the process of education, particularly higher education, will make us into nobler and better human beings. You know, if you went to a top university, let's say you went to Harvard or Oxford or Cambridge, and you said, you know, I've come here because I'm in search of morality, guidance, and consolation. I want to know how to live. They would show you the way to the insane asylum. This is simply not what our grandest and best institutes of higher learning are in the business of. Why? They don't think we need it. They don't think we are in urgent need of assistance. They see us as adults, rational adults. What we need is information, we need data, we don't need help. Now, religions start from a very different place indeed. All religions, all major religions at various points call us children. And like children, they believe that we are in severe need of assistance. We're only just holding it together. And perhaps this is just me, maybe you. But anyway, we're only just holding it together. And we need help. Of course we need help. And so we need guidance and we need didactic learning. Now, we've given up with the idea of sermons. If you said to a modern liberal individualist, hey, how about a sermon? They'd go, no, I don't need one of those. I'm an independent individual person. What's the difference between a sermon and our modern secular mode of delivery, the lecture? Well, a sermon wants to change your life, and a lecture wants to give you a bit of information. And I think we need to get back to that sermon tradition, The tradition of sermonizing is hugely valuable because we are in need of guidance, morality, and consolation, and religions know that. The other thing that religions do is to arrange time. All the major religions give us calendars. What is a calendar? A calendar is a way of making sure that across the year you will bump into certain very important ideas. In the Catholic chronology, Catholic calendar, at the end of March you will think about St. Jerome and his qualities of humility and goodness and his generosity to the poor. You won't do that by accident, you will do that because you are guided to do that. Now, we don't think that way. In the secular world, we think if an idea is important, I'll bump into it. I'll just come across it. Nonsense, says the religious worldview. The religious worldview says we need calendars, we need to structure time, we need to synchronize encounters. This comes across also in the way in which religions set up rituals around important feelings. Take the moon. It's really important to look at the moon. When you look at the moon, you think, I'm really small, what are my problems, sets things in perspective, etc., etc. We should all look at the moon a bit more often. We don't. Why don't we? Well, there's nothing to tell us, look at the moon. But if you're a Zen Buddhist in the middle of September, you will be ordered out of your home, made to stand on a canonical platform, and made to celebrate the festival of Tsukimi, where you will be given poems to read in honor of the moon and the passage of time and the frailty of life that it should remind us of. You'll be handed rice cakes, and the moon and the reflection on the moon will have a secure place in your heart. The other thing that religions know is we're not just brains. We are also bodies. And when they teach us a lesson, they do it via the body. So, for example, take the Jewish idea of forgiveness. Jews are very interested in forgiveness and how we should start anew and start afresh. They don't just deliver us sermons on this. They don't just give us books or words about it. They tell us to have a bath. So in Orthodox Jewish communities, every Friday you go to a mikveh. You immerse yourself in the water, and a physical action backs up a philosophical idea. We don't tend to do that. Our ideas are in one area, and our behavior with our bodies are another. Religions are fascinating in the way they try and combine the two. Let's think of something else. The people in the modern world, in the secular world, who are interested in matters of the spirit, in matters of the mind, in higher soul-like concerns, tend to be isolated individuals. They're poets, they're philosophers, they're photographers, they're filmmakers, and they tend to be on their own. They are cottage industries. They are vulnerable single people. And they get depressed and they get sad on their own. And they don't really change much. Now, think about religions. Think about organized religions. What do organized religions do? They group together. They form institutions. And that has all sorts of advantages. First of all, scale, might. The Catholic Church pulled in $97 billion last year, according to the Wall Street Journal. These are massive machines. They're collaborative, they're branded, they're multinational, and they're highly disciplined. These are all very good qualities. We recognize them in relation to corporations, and corporations are very like religions in many ways, except they're right down at the bottom of the pyramid of needs. They're selling us shoes and cars, whereas the people who are selling us the higher stuff, the therapists, the poets, are on their own, and they have no power. They have no might. So religions are the foremost example of an institution that is fighting for the things of the mind. Now, we may not agree with what religions are trying to teach us, but we can admire the institutional way in which they're doing it. Books alone, books written by lone individuals, are not going to change anything. We need to group together. If you want to change the world, you have to group together, you have to be collaborative, and that's what religions do. They are multinational, as I say, they are branded, they have a clear identity, so they don't get lost in a busy world. That's something we can learn from. I want to conclude. Really what I want to say is, for many of you who are operating in a range of different fields, there is something to learn from the example of religion, even if you don't believe any of it. If you're involved in anything that's communal, that involves lots of people getting together, there are things for you in religion. If you're involved, say, in the travel industry, in any way, look at pilgrimage. Look very closely at pilgrimage. We haven't begun to scratch the surface of what travel could be because we haven't looked at what religions do with travel. If you're in the art world, look at the example of what religions are doing with art. And if you're an educator in any way, again, look at how religions are spreading ideas. You may not agree with the ideas, but my goodness, they're highly effective mechanisms for doing so. So really my concluding point is, you may not agree with religion, but at the end of the day, religions are so subtle, so complicated, so intelligent in many ways, that they're not fit to be abandoned to the religious alone. They're for all of us.